Yeah. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
I hope I'm audible and visible too. Yeah. Good morning. Good morning.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Okay. So today, let's wait for a few minutes. Your friend to join. Right. Hmm. Then today I will go through a PPT session, right? And through PPT, I would try to discuss the thing so that it make it more concrete. Okay. Just wait for a few seconds. Visible, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yes. Is the presentation visible, everyone?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
visible.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Hello, everyone. Yeah. It's called.
Yes, sir,
Okay.
it's
The thing
visible.
is that in your course. Okay. See, as I have told you all that I have prepared my course plan as per your career requirement. Okay, when you will pass your MA, then it should be having two phases. The first phase is your career. That means you can go for different fields for different multinational companies who ask for a specialization in cultural studies itself. And second is your for UGC NET and for further research and PhD. Right. Now, on that basis, I have planned this course. Okay. Now, other thing is that you need not worry, okay, about the texts because all the texts are available in PDF. Right? And I will just share 3 to 4 books, okay, and from that books, particular section are given, right? Which from which your syllabus is there. So even if suppose in the morning I've shared you a book, won't have to read the whole book, right? You just have to read just 20 to 30 pages from that book. That would be enough for first part or for second part, right? Now eventually we will progress in that way. Now come back to the point. What is cultural studies? An introduction we are going to read about. See, this is the outline of the course. Miss this PPT itself. Okay. See, in this outline, we are going to read about transition. FLW means, this means, see, focus of literary studies. Okay. To cultural studies, how it is, and focus of literary writings, how it has progressed, right? Then why we should study culture studies in our class. Then we have culture versus literature. Then we have history of culture studies in brief, which I would discuss, and the central concern of culture studies, that is culture and people, definition of culture, discipline boundaries, focus of literary studies, and modes of analysis. Right. Now see, let's come to the first point. Transition from FLW to culture studies. Now what is this? See, as you all know, I suppose that we as a human being, okay, we as a human being, born and brought up in a particular culture. culture is not new. This culture is going from a long time. Now, what is new? Our approach towards the culture is new, right? And hence, this semester you will be having different literary theories, I suppose, right? Now, these theories actually are taken from one society and culture or the other, and then they have formed their own theory. Suppose you will have Marxism. I hope you have familiar with those terms, right? Suppose you have Marxism, you have structuralism, you have psychoanalysis. You will have culture materialism, right? So feminism, gender theory, right? So you have so many theories. Other than that, those theory you have, suppose, literary criticism, right? Where you have read Aristotle, where you have read Sidney, where you have read uh, Wordsworth or Coleridge, right? Where you have read T.S. Eliot, I suppose, where you will have read Horace, right? So many literary theories and criticism are already there. Okay. Now, all this criticism, if you take the example of Aristotle, right? Now, you see, when he gave his theory about tragedy, or when he gave about theory about melodrama, right? He gave these theory on the basis of dramas that were played during his time. So actually, those drama is all, and his theory is all about a particular culture. If you take it in that way, therefore, culture is divided into two pyramids. Okay, one pyramid is materialism. Okay, and the other pyramid is abstract thinking. One is material and the other is abstract. Okay. Now the books. Okay. These are the material position. Hmm. And our race, the things which you will find in the book, suppose our race, our religion, our nation, okay, our thinking. These are all part of our abstract. So you see, even Aristotle, if you find his theory, we have some particular words where he speaks about so many things together. Now, when Aristotle thinks about or says about all these things, he has one thing in his mind. That is his culture and society. How he has born and brought up with it, and how his culture and society has allowed him to think in that way. So, culture has always played a very important role. But in the same way, during the 19th and then in the 20th century, after the First World War and then after the Second World War, you see they are different because of various historical events. There was different literary theories which were emerging. For example, you have structuralism, you have formalism, you have Marxism, right? So different theories got emerged. Actually, these theory emerged for one particular reason. What is that particular reason? The reason was how to connect literature with life. So in order to understand life in terms of literature and language, or in order to understand literature and life in terms of our life itself and literature, we have different theories associated with it. Yeah. For example, during the 1930s, because of economic depression and previously because of the Soviet conflict in the 1917, you have the upbringing of what we call Marxist theory. This Marxist theory was already there, but nobody looked after it. It only came to forefront after 1917, the Bolshevik Revolution, or in the 1930s during the time of Stalin and Lenin and others, right? In the same way, you see, after the First World War, we have what we call modernism, right? And after the Second World War, we have postmodernism, where literature and life are both related with one way or the other. For example, have you read the play Waiting for Godot? Or have you gone through the play Waiting for Godot? Anyone? Have you heard about it? Waiting for Godot? Yes, anyone?
No, sir.
Okay. Actually, Waiting for Godot, okay. It's a play by Samuel Beckett. It is called an absurd drama. Now, what is this absurd drama? This is very important, okay. For a student of MA, it is very important. Absurd drama, you know that after the First and the Second World War, the life of man itself was questioned. हम हैं कि हम नहीं. It was the very movie Hamlet in Hindi or in Heather, which is a filmic adaptation of that movie. It is a very famous when all the people start protesting against the government, right? There is a popular saying, a phrase they use. What is that? हम हैं कि हम नहीं. Now, हम हैं कि हम नहीं, this speaks about that very absurdism itself. Right? If you did the very Hamlet text itself, to be or not to be, that is the question. Okay, Act 2, Scene 3, line number 143, you will find this out. Now, to be or not to be, that is the question. When you think about this, what it is? It is all about absurdism. Hamlet wants to speak up. Now, who is Hamlet? Hamlet is a research scholar of Denmark, of Cambridge University, right? So, see, such a highly educated person is feeling absurdism. Why? Because his father has died. His mother has married his uncle. And who is that person? His uncle. His uncle is supposed to be the person who has killed his father. Now, everything has become absurd. His beloved, Ophelia, it appears that he has cheated him. But that is a very trauma, right? With which Hamlet fears her. And that is the very claustrophobic and catastrophic image which forces Hamlet to think that hum hai ki hum nahi. To be or not to be, that is the question. So, you see, it is always the culture which builds a character. In the same way, during the 1950s, after the post-war session, okay, there was the emergence of so many literary theories. Now, all these literary theories have their base from one culture or the another, right? Now, since if all theories have different culture, then culture is common in every theory. Now, what does literary studies did? Now, the theoretician, particularly Stuart Hall, right? He took out all the theories together and form a new discipline, what we call cultural studies. And it is a new forum where every theories are read together. If you want to read about multiculturalism, you can go through cultural studies. If you want to read feminism, if you want to read gender studies, if you want to read secularism, whatever, if you want to read Shakespeare, if you want to read Pride and Prejudice, everything will come under the forum of cultural studies. Now, in the last class, I was speaking about Pride and Prejudice, right? So, you know, this is very important for your net also. Okay, UGC net. Please make it sure. Okay. Now, there is a term called great tradition. Okay. This term is given by Lewis. Okay. Now, he says that other than the great writer, the only four writers who speaks about and who has written about the culture and society in great detail are only four. Right? They are, this is very important, these four. Who are these four? They are, number one, Jane Austen. Okay. Number two, George Eliot. Number three, Henry James. And number four, Hardy. Okay. Now these four are called the great tradition writer according to our Lewis. Now, as per his dictum, our literature should also, and the writer should also focus on this culture materialism. So you understood that how culture became a part of interdisciplinary discourses. Whenever I'm speaking about, suppose in Marxism, there are two terms. One is proletariat and the other is bourgeois. Now, who is the bourgeois? Bourgeois are actually the higher class people and proletariat are the lower class. Now, what Marxism is general, I'm not going to tell in detail about Marxism, just telling for to make you understand cultures in terms of cultural studies. Marxist says that the proletariat means those who are working class people. They must come to power. Okay, giving up the bourgeois so that everything should go on in a complete circle. There should not be any power challenge between one on the other. So in this way, they should progress. Now you see, culture is always there. It's all about public. So in this way, you see that culture studies always pay focus on interdisciplinariness. Okay. And it has evolved with that itself. Now come to the next slide. Now why we are going to study culture studies? You may think, okay, sir, this is okay, this is fine. Culture is very interesting. We are going to study about, suppose, what we are going to study. Suppose you are going to shopping mall. So shopping culture. You all love to buy from Flipkart. Or even if we love to go to cinema for watching movies, right? So theater. Everything involves some culture or the other. We love to eat food at different restaurants. For example, in Agartala, I found that Sherawali is the best sweet shop, right? Now, why only going to Sherawali? Why not Giridhar? Or why not any other food stall? So, actually, this is the very area we should think about. Now, we as a student of literature, we always think the term in one way or the another. So what is theory? Theory is actually taken from a word theoria, which is a Greek term, okay? And this means the act of looking. Now we, the student of literature, we always have a special way of looking at the things. Suppose when you are watching any movie, suppose I hope that many of you have watched Heather movie at least, right? Now, you all have a different perspective of watching Heather. Why you will have a different perspective? Because you all have, I hope that you all have read Hamlet. So whenever you are watching Heather, you must be trying to relate with Hamlet, right? At what happened in Hamlet in the text and what is happening Heather in the movie. So here you try to relate with one point or the other. So that is why I am saying that theory is and the act of looking. And the time you are studying about cultural studies, you will be able to relate history, theory, and literature together. So can serve as an example of how theories are connected to each other. That is the purpose of studying literature, cultural studies in class. It will help you to grow as a man. It will help you to understand what will happen when you are in a job, when you are in a leadership position, or when you have to play a role of a leader. How you will incorporate people who are coming from different culture. Now, if you have studied cultural studies, you know that what kind of psychology they have. So that will help you to handle different people when you are playing a role of group leader in a private or public institution or organization. So here lies the importance of reading cultural studies in class. Okay. Now, in this way, it can help you to learn about our own society, how culture is going on. Right. Next. Now, literature and culture. Culture, as it is known, the best has been said and thought in the world. Culture is actually the best thing. Okay. Now, there is the Hindu myth. There is a popular book, The Hindu Myth by Wilkie Doniger. Okay. Now, you see, when he is speaking about the Hindu myth, in that book, he speaks about how the Indian literature speaks about the sexual expression itself. How different gods and goddesses, right? They have speaking about their own orientation, their sexual pleasure, and how people have applied those tones, their monotony in their own life. For example, I will just give you one example. Okay, suppose Tulsi is very important, right? Why Tulsi plant? Tulsi plant is such a plant which gives 24-hour oxygen to us, right? But if the scientists say that Tulsi is such an important thing, the people won't take it because they are in India, particularly, they are very the educated number, the literate number of people is very less, right? Who will understand these things in scientific terms. So what they did, the rishis were the great scientists, and they told that Tulsi is actually a goddess, and she was the wife of Lord Shiva. So it is always needed to put a Tulsi plant at the very center of your home, at the angan. Now, what happened? Daily people used to start, the women particularly, they used to start worshipping the Tulsi plant, right? Which is placed at the very center of their home, at the very angan, we say, right? Particularly if you go to North India, in my home also, you will find this thing. They think that Tulsi is actually a goddess. There is also a sibling started, just put beside it, right? I don't know whether in Agartala you all follow it or not, but in North India we all follow it, right? Now, see how both things are combined together. Now, Tulsi is there at your home, that means you have 24-hour oxygen. At the same time, you have a firm belief on your religion. So you see how culture and society are being assembled together. And this is being presented in literature. It is written in literature how it does, right? So you see how literature and culture are related to it. Culture is actually a way of life. If you don't worship, what will happen? Nothing will happen except in your psychology. I believe that there are many who worships daily or at least once in a month, right? Why they all worship? They all worship, they have firm faith on God. Now this faith on God is really, really important. Now this firm faith of God is actually your way of life itself. Right. So this is why culture and literature both are very important. And when it is presented in the form of literature, it becomes a part of literary device itself. And here is the relation between culture studies and literary studies. Now, what is the relation? Let me tell you in brief. See, with Wordsworth, with the Romantic poets, there is a particular term. Wordsworth is called pantheist. Pantheism. Right? Now, what is pantheism? Anyone? Yes? You all are student of MA, so I suppose you know this much of Romanticism. What is pantheism? Anyone? Does anybody know what is the meaning of pantheism? I hope during your graduation you must have read this term, Romanticism and all, right? Pantheism, Wordsworth and all, or even in your masters. So what is pantheism, anyone? Okay. Pantheism means worshipper of nature, the nature worship itself. Okay. So Wordsworth, because of his presentation of nature in his poem, right, he is often called as a pantheist, means the worshipper of nature. Now, when he is writing something, suppose I hope all of you have read the poem The Solitary Reaper, right? So when he is writing that poem, he is not just speaking about that girl who is cutting the grass with a sickle. He is also speaking about that culture itself. Right? So you see how culture and literature both are assembled together. Okay. Now let's come to the next. Okay, this is very interesting. Now, what is cultural studies? If you ask in terms of your context, see, culture study concentrates on subjectivity, which means that it studies culture in relation to individual lives, breaking with social scientific positivism or objectivism. Means actually we all have our own approach to our culture. Being in the same family, the way you eat chicken, the way you look at chicken, or the way you look at KFC may not be the same way your parents look at KFC. That means you all have your subjective point of view, which is separate from one individual to other. Hence, you have the total right to create that dichotomy and enjoy the KFC chicken, right? The KFC juicy chicken with sauce and fingers and all, right? So that means you have first the identity, then it's related to consumption, what you want to eat. Now, consumption is actual to your representation, how you are representing yourself, that you are a high culture person, you are studying MA in English, that means you know everything, right? And that means you have the right to enjoy KFC, which a person who is building this campus, that person doesn't have the right. And this presentation of yours as a KFC consumer, which actually leads to the production of more chicken in the KFC, more food. And in this way, the regulation happens. And this regulation again goes to identity. So it's a complete circle which go from one way or the another. I gave the example of KFC chicken. You take any example, okay, any example you all want, and you will be able to understand this thing in a more rapid way. Okay, it's very interesting to understand. Okay, suppose you are all attending the class. Why you all are able to attend the class? Because you think that you have an identity. Identity of what? Your ID itself is making your an identity. That suppose you are Abhijit Dev or Kiran Sinha or Arnoni Dev Parma, right? Or am I Manish Prasad? Now, our identity is given by our ID card. Now, what we are doing with it? I am taking your class and you are attending my class. So, you are consuming something. Now, when you are consuming, that means you are representing what you are representing. You are representing MA second year. Now, in this presentation, what is happening? There is a production. What is that? There is a production of knowledge. You all are learning cultural studies itself. Now, after you learn, you will definitely do a research. You will do your PhD. You will qualify in it. You will get a job. And then you will teach the same thing to different person. And then the identity would revolve. Suppose I am teaching you all. After 5 years, you all would be teaching the same thing. So once Manisha taught us culture studies in a specialization, as now we are eligible enough to teach the same to the other. Now you will have a different set of batch of students where you are going to teach culture studies. So you see, in this way, there is a chain, there is a column which always goes on, right? And this is provided just because of Culture Studies Forum, right? Now see, this is just a short history, right? One thing more, I am not going to discuss any of the theories in this course, right? I won't discuss any theories or any theory in detail because you are not familiar with it. It is very important, but since you are not familiar, I'm not going to discuss any theories. I will just refer them if it is needed. Okay. See, it started with 1950s when Hogarth, Raymond Williams and Thomson, they propounded a new theory. They thought to write a new theory, and then we had in the 60s cultural studies. Okay. And then in the 70s, new theories and new theoreticians speak something about the others. For example, Roland Barthes and Althusser, right? They speak about culture materialism or scientific or semiotic materialism and others, right? In the 70s, you had Gramsci and Foucault, right? Particularly, who spoke about hegemony, right? And then they speak about power and democracy and discourse, right? Which you have in your syllabus. So you see, in this way, cultural studies got involved with various theories and various theoreticians. Now, when it came to mid-1980s, with the postmodern debate, what happened? You see, there a circle started, and With that circle, you also came into power. For example, at that day, I gave the example of Coca-Cola, the postmodern debate that is okay. We are a Gulf people. I hope you all remember the very example I gave that uh, the company people went to Gulf and they wanted to present Coca-Cola to other people. But what happened? The people refused because the sign was altered by them. They always read from the opposite direction. So the first man is walking, after he drinks Coca-Cola, he will die. So this was their general mindset, and it gave to the postmodern debate कि every people or every culture has his own cultural orientation. So if you want to really want to know about a society, you first have to know about their culture. If you really want to understand Shakespeare, you must be familiar with Elizabethan audience and Elizabethan background itself. Right. So this is the general circle we all should know about. Now, with the 1990s, what happened? With the inter-Asian cultural studies, something new grew up. What is regional cultural studies? Suppose regional cultural studies refers to suppose, okay, today I will share you now a webinar link. This is not a webinar, actually this is a call for presentation where everybody can speak about a Bengali culture. Okay, today I will share you after this class itself, right? Now, how this Bengali culture has evolved in the last 200 years, this is a particular topic of interest. And you must all be thinking, sir, the majority of your class members are Bengali, suppose, right? Or suppose if they are all Kogbodo speakers, or they Burma and all, how they have evolved and how they are going on at particular time, at particular moment of time. Suppose when you all came in Icaria, you all dress up in your own way that you want. Do you think that same dress trend was followed 5 years back when the Icaria was celebrated in your university? You see, this is the change of trend. And this is what I'm speaking about, the regional cultural studies, means how particular community or particular regional, suppose Tripura or suppose in West Bengal or suppose in Bihar, Uttar Pradesh or MP or anywhere, right? How people present themselves in different culture, right? Now, now, different theoretical schools have been developed, as I have discussed you all, that you have Roland Barthes, where he speaks about connotation with different languages. For example, you have, I hope many of you watch WWE, right? Where we have John Cena and others, right? See, that is also a very interesting thing. We, from school days, we all love to watch WWE. I personally am a great fan of WWE. You know, one thing I must like to share with you all, that when I was in class 5, 6, I was not interested in speaking English or to study English at any cost. Now, the moment I started watching WWE, the more interest I got developed for English language itself. Because until and unless you understand English, you cannot enjoy WWE at its full strength. So the more I watched WWE, the better I became in English, right? So this is my secret of understanding English and its relation with WWE. So see how my culture and how my understanding got involved when I watched a different culture. This is what we call connotation. This, understood? I connote the culture in my own term. I connote the culture studies or suppose the wrestling culture in my own term, right? Then we have popular culture and mass culture. Now, this is the central debate and it requires a whole class together. So I will just mention this name at this present time and will just give an example of it, right? Suppose here you have agency versus mass culture, hegemony, ideology, strategy of identification, self-location and resistance, etc. What are all these things? You must be bogging, sir. पहले क्लास में इतना मत पढ़ाइए सर, हम लोग का दिमाग फ्यूज हो जा रहा है. The moment you say कि सर हम लोग का दिमाग फ्यूज हो जा रहा है, you all are saying, it means you are thinking about yourself. You are thinking about this class itself. Now, when you are thinking, you are part of this mass. Which mass? A mass which is familiar with this discipline of cultural studies. Before that, I believe that you all knew about these things, but in bits and bits. But the time I am presenting you through this PPT, it is making you particularize कि अच्छा हम लोग ये पढ़े थे तो इसका relation ये है. We have read this and this is related to this one. We have read that one and this is relating this one. Right? You all have suppose read Hamlet, but you did it thought that it's all about absurdism itself, to be or not to be. अब करना है कि नहीं करना है ये तय करना है. Right? हम हैं कि हम हैं नहीं. So this is very important that to be a part of this mass culture and all. Right? Now, definitions, main concern, right? What is high culture and what is popular culture? So what is low culture and popular culture? Now the different point. I will just give an example of it, right? I will discuss these slides will have a different lecture in the later on classes, but I will just give an example. Suppose what is high culture and what is popular culture, right? See how culture as a product. Now you know that Shakespeare, who was the very history of Shakespeare writing, right? Shakespeare was actually a writer of the lower class people. He was actually writing not for the higher class, for the daily wage earners and all, for the liquid, right? He was writing for them. And that is why you will have so much of sexual element in Midsummer's Night Dream, so much of topsy-turvy element in As You Like It, so much of lucid elements, right, in other plays, okay, As You Like It, and the other plays, The Merchant of Venice and others, right? But actually, what has happened now? It has become a part of higher culture. Why? Because see, the student of MA, are studying Shakespeare in the class, articles which was actually for the lower class people. So in this way, a popular culture has become a part of the higher culture. And this is also vice versa. Okay, suppose there are various references, you will got it, and in the class I will definitely try to discuss with you in great detail, much more in great detail, right? Now, come to this one, canon. Now, this is very important, I hope that there are many students in the class, right, who believe to write something new, who want to write their own poetry, who want to write their own story, who want to write their own novel, right? Now, when you all are writing something or the other, when you all are want to do something, to create something, you would always idealize someone. You make that, okay, this person is writing too good, so we should follow him or her. This person, his writing style is too good, so let's do something like that. Let's write a drama. Let's perform a drama. When you are doing it, in that process of doing, was actually authenticating that literature. Suppose when you are trying to do something on, suppose Indian writing in English. I don't know how much you are familiar with it. Suppose in Vijay Tendulkar is a great Indian dramatist and drama writer. I hope you all have known, familiar with his name. Okay. Now Vijay Tendulkar is a great writer. Now if you watch his drama or if you read his dramas, right, and plays, you will find something different is there. Now what is that different? The difference is that his very presentation of woman characters in his plays. That makes him something, the very angry man of Marathi theatre. Now when you are idealizing them, you are actually making him a canon. So literary canon does matter because it helps you to give a base to which you can stand up, you can look yourself up. Suppose you have a good poet, you can follow his poetry and write your own poem following him. When you are following that poet, you are actually making a literary canon out of it. As told by T.S. Eliot. For example, I will give one more example for it. And then the last slide I will present after this. See, suppose here in the class, suppose Helen is a very good poet, I suppose, or Kajal is a very good singer, I suppose, right? Now, but they are poet and a singer in their own frame. But there is someone who is more better than them. who are better than them, right? For example, we have so many. Suppose Shreya Ghosal is a very good female singer, and which is my favorite, right? Suppose now, if which is their favorite also. Suppose if Helen wants to speak, if she wants to sing, just like Shreya Ghoshal. Now she will just make a canon that okay, Shreya Ghoshal is a master class, and I will have to sing. Not just like her, but in terms which is familiar to her, so that I could be famous. The same is the case with another. Suppose Rajat is there and he wants to present, yeah, he wants to write a poetry. Now with for like whom he want to write. Now he will always have, he will like to search some of, there must be someone who is his favorite poet, right? So he would try to follow him or her. At the time he is trying to follow him or her, he is actually making him a canon. For example, Keats is a very good poet. Now, if he is trying to write a poem like Keats about nature, suppose Tripura is a very good, is a place where which is full of natural harbinger, and if he wants to write something about Tripura and something like Keats about Tripura, he will be making Keats a literary canon, and it does matter because it helps him and his culture, means it helps Rajat and his culture to identify himself as a poet in the group of literary canon artists. And here lies the importance of cultural studies. Okay, it is always a culture which gives a rapid force to your culture and literary canon. Okay, now the last slide. Now, what we are going to study, as I have told you all, we are not going to study the literary theories. Then what we are going to study? We are actually going to study how, we are actually going to analyze how with the close reading and the context also goes on in hand in hand. Suppose you will have shopping culture when you are going to take you all. Suppose when I am going to ask Arnoni about the very folk culture in the Burma community, when I will ask her, she will definitely have to speak something or the other. Now when she will speak something or the other, you will all be familiar. Okay, this is the thing. In this way, the thing happen, something happen in that way. So in this way, you see the close reading is there. Suppose when I speak about media culture, how the media is taking the thing. Suppose in these new media, right, news media particularly, we have the SSS case, Sushant Singh Rajput's case, or suppose Riya Chakrabarti, what he has done, the nepotism and all, right. This is a new media culture which is coming up, and the other media culture which is coming up is TRP itself. You see, all are running for TRP. There is no good news in the media. They are presenting the same news in different forms. You scroll the different channels, right? So this is something which will make you oof, আর ভালো লাগছে না এটা. Now, this ভালো লাগছে না এটা, when you say, right, what is happening? You are actually paying too much focus to that news itself, and that will not be making you very, that will make you rather very claustrophobic, very painful, very killing, right? That this killing is painful. It's just like a rapid force. You won't be able to take it anymore. Now, this you will only be able to understand if you analyze this thing. Suppose from about 40 minutes I'm giving you a lecture on cultural studies. You must be thinking, sir, अब छोड़ दीजिए, बहुत हो गया मेरा, अब ले नहीं पा रहे. When you are saying this, right, you are actually analyzing my class at the same time when you are trying to understand it, right? So this is high, and this is why, okay, the analysis and the close reading is very important. Okay, and the second point, the lure of totality. What is this lure of totality? Means how much you have gained, how much you have satisfied, how much you have been profited after going through these studies itself. Suppose if you want to local culture, what is local concerns? Global means it's a combination of global and local together. Later on, I will take a special class on localization. Right, it's very important, and I hope you all will enjoy it and give a big laugh to it. Right. Now, this localization is very important. Suppose I will just give an example, and then I will stop today's class. Suppose fingers. Right, you all love to eat. Now, what is fingers? fingers are actually potato chips, the long potato chips which you will find KFC. But are many, I hope, who doesn't like to eat potato. But when the same potato is presented at KFC, you all love to eat that fingers. Right? Now, this is how local and global are mixed together. And this is the way the new way of presenting the things, the new way of presenting the culture. Your own Indian culture is presented in a new way. So this is how the things has developed in India. So that's all I have for today's class, and see what I'm going to teach in the next class. In the next class, I'm going to teach evolution and culture. It's history of culture studies both within and outside the academy. Means both I will incorporate movies, drama, poetry, as well as literary text, your own food, your own song, everything would be there, which would be the part of next culture series. So that's all I have for today's class. Thank you. Now, if you have any question, you may ask. Yes? If you have any doubt, anything? Yes?
Sir, sir, can you share the PPT that you have explained today in the group?
Yeah, sure. No issue. Yeah, well, definitely.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Sir.
yeah. How was the class? Have you all understood?
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It's very interesting, sir.
Okay. So you have told too many things. I have tried to discuss too many things in just 40 minutes. I hope you all have enjoyed it. Okay. So, okay. If you have any doubt, any questions, okay, regarding culture studies, even if you have my WhatsApp number, you have the group, so you may ask there also. Right? No issue with it. Okay. Just wait few seconds. I will take your attendance. Then we will end the class. Okay. So. Okay. Roll number 1, Abhijit Dev.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Roll number 2, Yakir Yang.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sagar Debarma. Okay. Shalka Tripura. Okay. Shusmita Das.
Yes, sir.
Kiran Rajesh Sinha.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Rajat Vaishya.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Barbia Debarma.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Barnali Debarma. Okay. Souvik Dev.
Yes, sir.
Arnoni Debarma.
Present, sir.
Tanish Basak.
Present, sir.
Okay. Shahdev Kaipang. Okay. Devalina Chakrabarti. Okay. Pito David Debarma. Okay. Tamal Sarkar.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ruby Debarma.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. James Debarma. Okay. Paushali Ghosh. Okay. Newly Debarma. Elisha Debarma.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hakchangti Debarma.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Dhrupjyoti Chakrabarti.
Yes, sir.
Sorry. Nusrat Jahan. Okay. Ria Jamatia.
Yes, sir.
Sushma Debarma.
Yes, sir.
Rukhsana Khanan Laskar. Okay. Kajal Sinha.
Yes, sir.
Konsangrati Jiang.
Yes, sir.
Pooja
Yes,
Devnath.
sir.
Okay. Pooja Devnath. Okay. Tuhin Debarma. Helen Devan.
Present, sir.
Yeah. So that's all I have for today's class, right? In the next class, I will definitely try to relate it more in a more detail. Okay. So thank you. Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah.